So you want to know a little bit about floating bridges. Hey everyone, it's Jamie Slays. In today's video I'm going to talk about Floyd roses, floating bridges, low pro edges, edge zeros, everything that is a floaty wah sound to it. We're going to talk about it on here. But before we get into the video, head on over to jamieslays.com and check out my merch. I've got this t-shirt here and I've got a new orange 666 goat logo one as well. Support the channel and buy a shirt. Believe it or not, I get a lot of questions about floating bridges, string gauges, how to set them up. Is it worth getting one? Should I get one as my first guitar? That kind of thing. So I thought, considering I have like 12 guitars that are specifically floating bridges, I know, right? I thought it would be a good idea to talk about them and how they work. I'm not actually going to get one out and like take it apart and show you how it works, but I might put some pictures over the top or some videos or links to videos on how to do the stuff that I'm mentioning. I've got like 8 or 9 guitars that have floating bridges just in this room. There's a solo 7-string, the Dean I showed you just then, loads of Ibanez, and people are always saying like, is it a good idea? Should I get one? Is it a pain in the bum? And some of the answers to those questions are yeah, and some of the answers are also yeah. So like I said, I probably will just demonstrate it, but I'm not going to actually get the Floyd rose out and like take it apart and everything. But for those of you who don't know, a floating bridge tremolo should look like this on the guitar, where it's completely level, and then you have an arm here that you can dive down or dive up. Certain bridges, traditionally like Fender style ones, or any of the new kind of vintage or Wilkinson style ones on guitars like the Court that I had recently, and Ibanez AZ or Sur, and those kind of guitars, they just go down, they don't necessarily go up as well. But a kind of true floating bridge is level, and then you can dive up and down. So people like Dimebag, Kirk Hammett, Steve Vai, those are the kind of people that got me into using them. Children of Bodom, Alexi Leho, rest in peace. Rest in peace Dimebag obviously as well. And I never really knew what it was. I never knew how you did it, I never knew how it worked, and I went to a guitar shop when I got my Schecter with my dad, and the guy in the shop was like,
do not get a floating bridge guitar.
And it's a shame really, because in that era, I think the Ibanez's that they had for sale were really good, and I wish I got one. But you live and you learn. So, first question I get asked a lot is, what string gauges should you use with a floating bridge guitar? Anytime anyone asks, what string gauge do you use? I always say, what tuning do you play in? And that's because I wouldn't want to use 12 to 62 in E standard, but I would in maybe drop A. So, depends on what tuning you want in. I've got the Dean here in E standard, and it's 9 to 46 I think. And the spring tension is what you then want to look at. But then I've got a 7-string that's in drop G sharp, which is like 12 to 70 or 12 to 64. And there's 4 springs on it. So with Floyd roses, it's not really a specific gauge you want to use. That always, again, comes down to what tuning you want to use. This is my Ibanez RG 2570 Vital Gold, so VGD, and it does have a floating bridge. Like most of the Ibanez guitars that I have, there's only 2 that I have that are string through hip shots, which are the Iron Label ones. What you'll notice with most Floyd Rose guitars is they have locking nuts here, and then they obviously have a locking system here that you put the strings into. This type of bridge specifically allows you to put the strings in with the balls still on the end. You don't need to cut them off, and you just tighten them up, so that when you're doing that, the balls are still attached. So I've got the back off of this already, so you can actually see in here, those little red plastic things in there are actually to stop the balls from kind of getting stuck in the springs. But yeah, I set this one up earlier. It took me quite a while, but that's because I set up the whole guitar, I took it apart completely. You do need a hex or an Allen key, one of these. I bought a Futone one, so it magnetically sticks to the back. Also, the term Floyd Rose is a bit of a genericide now. Any of the bridges I talk about may not specifically be Floyd Roses, but it just means floating bridge. The other question I get is, how do you set them up? And that's, again, another really long answer with a question. What you generally have to do is put something underneath the bridge to stop it from collapsing in on itself. Because as soon as you lower the string tension, the bridge will go and just fall in on itself. So generally, I've bought another, again, a Futone thing, sits underneath here. Some people use cloth, some people use coasters. What you do is you dive the bar down like that, put the stopper underneath, let it go, and then the bar will stay, or the bridge even will stay level. So as soon as you start unwinding the tension, the bridge won't sink into itself. Then what you do is you cut all the strings off. If you do, some people do it one at a time, so actually you could do one string at a time, but I tend to completely clean the fretboard as well. Then you put a whole new set of strings on, tune them up to where you want them to be roughly, then take the kind of stopper out, the coaster or whatever, and see where the bridge is sitting. See if it's sitting too high or sitting too low. When you've done that, it's kind of like a balancing act. What you need to do is tune one end, tighten the springs in the back on the other end. Tune one end, tighten the springs in the back on the other end. This will make more sense when I actually do a video down the line where I show you how to do it, and that will be like, I don't know, an idiot's guide to how to restring a Floyd, but this is just like Floyd 101. But as you see, I'm putting things over the top, like pictures and videos and stuff, just to illustrate how it works, but I will do a video down the line where I show you how to do this step by step. Then what you do is you keep tuning on one end, and then make sure that the bridge doesn't lift up and doesn't sink in, it literally stays flat. You do that by adjusting the springs in the back and tightening the gauge at the top. What I tend to do, which again I'll go over more when I do restringing of it, is I will tune up half a step to where I want to be, and then because the bridge is floating, it will gradually pull itself back down, and then you tune back up again, grab it down, tune back up again. It's like, it literally is a lengthy process, but it's one of those things that the more you do it, the quicker you'll get at it, and the less laborious it'll feel, maybe. Yeah, that's another thing that people always ask about, is how do you actually set the bridge up? What you can do on some bridges is you can lock them off so that they stay flat. So some people, like Mick Thompson for example, love the feel of a floating bridge under the wrist with palm muting and stuff, but he wants it to be locked off completely. Whereas he's even designed a special bridge with Ibanez and then with Jackson as well, which I've played, and it is really fun. I do really like it. It is nice as well because sometimes when you palm mute too hard, it pushes the bridge down and changes the tension. But I do love to do my dime bag squeals, that kind of stuff. Another thing as well, I'll get this guitar again, is to fine tune the strings. You have to turn these little pegs here. These are fine tuners. Because once you've locked off this edge, turning the headstock tuning pegs doesn't do anything. You may have seen Dimebag in some pictures has completely snapped his headstock off, but because these locking nuts are here, the tuning stays very stable, and you would actually need to then readjust from here. A lot of people will be familiar with it with things like Strandberg and Kiesel and headless guitars, because a lot of the tuning implements are down at the bottom. So yeah, I mean, let me know in the comment section below what you think of floating bridge guitars. Do you like them? Do you not like them? As you may have seen, I have got loads of them, so I really like them. But yeah, I know a lot of people don't really like using floating bridge guitars because they don't like the hassle, they don't like having to keep taking it to a person to set it up. But I would say, if you do want to get one, you know, like your favourite guitar in the world doesn't come with a hardtail or a string through version, and you have to get a Floyd version, either try and persevere and learn how to use that kind of thing and how to set it up, or just block it off, because if it's really that bad, you don't want to be taking drills to things and taking bridges out. You never know, you might want to. Or put like an Evertune in it, which is another video which we can do another day if you want to talk about Evertunes as well. I've got an Evertune guitar and I really enjoy it, but I get that some people don't like the idea, they don't get the appeal, they don't understand how it works. I didn't really understand. So stay tuned for how to set up Evertune guitars also. I will do a video on how to restring floating bridge guitars, because I don't really have a lot of room in here, so I'll have to figure out some way to put a tripod out and actually do it, because it does take quite a while, maybe like an hour or so. But yeah, let me know in the comment section below what you think of floating bridge guitars. Do you own them? Do you want one? Do you like them? Do you hate them? Like the video if you enjoyed this. I want to try doing more talky videos where I just talk to you, at you, about things. I want to start doing some more like original content rather than just covering riffs all the time. And also, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you liked what you saw today, and ring the little bell, because then when I post new videos, you'll be the first to be notified. And for those of you who are already subscribed, thank you very much. I'll see you guys next week for some more videos. Bye everyone.